Hey, what's going on, guys? Rev, back in the house. Man, we've been off for like 3 weeks, man. I'm completely blaming you.
Blacking, man.
Two weeks ago, I was like, let's do this
Hey,
thing.
what's
And you
going
were
on,
like,
guys?
no.
Come on.
Rev, back in the house. Man, oh, we got echo here. Hold
You
on, let me
know I
fix
ain't
the
said that.
echo. Well, first of all, my March Madness bracket was terrible. Rev, I just want to put it out there before everybody else gets involved. So we were absolutely terrible. Rev, what's been going on in your world, man?
We like this is there ain't no we here, right? The Canes were in the top four, baby. I didn't
I
pick
mean,
them to be
yeah,
in the
but your
top four though,
bracket
but
was
I did
terrible.
pick
But yeah.
Texas though. Yeah, yeah. I think Gio ended up winning that thing anyway, so it's over. Like it's called March Madness for a reason because nobody actually cares. Once your team loses, it's like who cares?
Yeah,
So NBA
Gio's in the
playoffs
chat
now,
right now
baby.
talking trash.
We're excited.
Yeah, we're on to the NBA today. We got Jazz with us today. Jazz. So I want to ask you something. I don't know if you've been on the Twitters all week and everything else, but it's been like Dak arguments from start to finish this week. Where as a Cowboys fan, what are your thoughts on Dak? Is he better than Patrick Mahomes? Is he better than Jalen
Oh my
Hurts?
god.
Like where are we at?
Um, so I'm gonna come out and say no. I don't think Dak Prescott is better than Patrick Mahomes. I do think that he's at least top 10. I would actually put him top 8. The funny thing with the Dak arguments, and to answer your question, I haven't even really been on Twitter that much this week. I've been preparing for a convention all week, so like I was on there like the first couple of days. But honestly, the Dak arguments, they seem to go year round, honestly. It feels like there's like this constant battle between Cowboys fans about whether or not the quarterback should be supported. So, in my opinion, I think he's done an awesome job. Like he's got 21, maybe 22 now franchise records, right? The team has gone 12-5 2 years in a row, and I know people are like, "Well, Cooper Rush did a lot of that work during this past
Did
season."
he? Did he?
Whatever. But it's like it's like that could have easily come back and like fucked up everything. Oh, am I allowed to curse in here? What are y'all's rules about that?
Yes, no, maybe, yeah. Whatever feels
um,
right to you.
that could have easily come back and made a mess of things. But he came back, he was strong. Like he could have easily used that injury as an excuse, right? Because even though it is just a thumb, it is the thumb on his throwing hand, which from what I understand about what quarterbacks do is pretty damn important. But throughout the entire time, he has been respected as a leader the entire time. He has been respected as one of the hardest working members on the team the entire time. And he still helped the team finish out a really successful season. And in my opinion, I think people are making a really big deal out of one, a really bad season in terms of interceptions, and two, I think people are discounting how hard it is to win in the playoffs and make a Super Bowl. I just keep thinking about the fact that this guy was a fourth round draft pick who was supposed to be backup to Tony Romo for however long. And then things changed. Destiny didn't work out that way, but like he stepped into his role and he's owned it like he was a freaking first or second round pick. So I'm just like, all right, let him keep progressing. From what I know, and I am a baby Cowboys fan, and I say that because I know people have literally been fans for like 30 something years, right? But from what I can see, he seems to be getting better and better,
Those
right?
poor bastards,
There are
30
players
years.
who come and go in the league who will never even see the playoffs, much less the Super Bowl. So the fact that the team even seems competitive enough to where people would consider them like contenders for the Super Bowl, and that they've made the playoffs 2 years in a row. I mean, I think that's something to be respected. Now, you want them to do better? Great. We all do. They want to do better, right? But I don't think that's a reason to like when I see people say that he's trash or he's um somebody said that he's like not even top 10 or they were like, yeah, maybe he's top 15 or 20. I'm like, nah, that's disrespectful as hell. um,
Hmm.
my opinion.
So
Yeah, yeah.
Geo in the
Like
chat right
who
now.
are
He's a
we
big
actually
Eagles fan.
comparing him
He
to?
he he wants to
Uh
know
oh.
if you think he's better than Jalen Hurts. He wants the straight up answer.
um okay, so let me tell you why this is tough. Is that okay? Can I do that?
Absolutely. Let's hear it.
The reason
Yeah,
why it's
yeah.
tough is because it almost feels like people forget how Jalen Hurts was talked about before this past year. Like 2022, Jalen Hurts had a great season, but let's not act like last offseason people weren't thinking that he was a mistake and that he was a
Hmm.
bust and that the team should find another option, right? And so it's almost like he hasn't been through enough for me to really make the comparison, because as far as Hurts goes, it's like he came in, he struggled, and now he's had a great year. Awesome. But now he's also had an injury. And then the team is dealing with a lot of changes that are going to affect the 2023 season. So it's almost like I really need to see how he handles this before I compare him to someone who's dealt with 8 years worth of ups and downs and struggles in the NFL. Because if we were to take Dak Prescott's first 3 to 4 seasons, people would feel very differently about him, based on those records and what they saw and the trajectory than they do now. So I think Jalen Hurts is very good, and I've loved Jalen Hurts since he was in college. Um, I
What
think,
college you play at, by the way?
huh?
What college you play at, by the way?
Jalen Hurts. It was Alabama, then Oklahoma, right? Yeah. Um,
He's giving you
and
a hard
so
time because I'm a big Alabama fan, so it's hard for me to hate on
He,
Jalen
he's,
Hurts.
we got Alabama. We got Alabama on the mic,
okay,
Jazz. That's why we
I'm like,
tease him.
I'm like, is that a trick question? I think I know the answer is obvious, right?
Yeah.
No, he was giving me a hard
Yeah.
time because I love Jalen Hurts, and now he's an Eagle, and it hurts my soul.
Oh, I get that. But yeah, so if I had to compare what we've seen at their peak, right? What I've seen of Dak Prescott at his peak, I think is actually comparable to what we've seen of Jalen Hurts at his peak, if we're being honest. Um, but as far as like who's better right now based on the most recent performance, yeah, obviously Jalen Hurts looked a lot better, but I would say he worked with his system and or was the system depending on who you ask, I guess. But I don't know, he seemed to have better flow with his team as far as what his role was and how he was used. um Dak Prescott, a lot of times, if I'm being honest, did not look comfortable in the offense, did not look comfortable behind the offensive line. Still managed to perform for the most part, but I think if Dak were in a position where he was as comfortable as Jalen Hurts was, with his offense, we would have seen a very different version of Dak Prescott. So, um,
Yeah,
I guess if
I
I'm
agree. I
I
agree
have to
with you.
say, like, I I'm not mad at anybody who says Jalen Hurts is better than Dak Prescott, but I can support anybody who says that Dak is better than Hurts.
So Rev, when you respond to this, let's jump into some rankings here, man. I know we kind of talked that maybe
Yeah.
we do it, but we're here now. So let's talk about
Yep.
some NFC quarterback rankings, right? And whether you give Dak or Jalen the nod there, who are your top 5 in the NFC, Rev?
Yeah. So before I give you my 5, real quick, I loved how Jazz put it, because the thing is, we just haven't seen enough. You know,
Mm-hmm.
everything's been really good for Jalen as far as, the team that's been put around him. There's no doubt that between the Eagles and the 49ers, they have the best rosters in the entire league. And so, this idea of Dak being in the league for 8 years, multiple coordinators, coaches, systems, those different types of things, players moving in and out, and losing top players, going by wide receiver committee, and then you're comparing to the roster that Jalen has. It's like, man, Jalen has a lot of good support around him, and they have chosen the perfect system to match him. And so, if they keep that intact, I mean, Jalen's going to continue to be successful. But I like how you said it, Jazz. We need to see more. Like, we need to see him when he doesn't have the offensive line, or he doesn't have those top receivers to throw to and targets and things like that, or maybe not even the defense as well. So Dak has been through all the valleys and everything else. So if I'm ranking, just really quickly, if I'm ranking my NFC QBs, of course, you might say I'm biased, but I'm going Dak as my one. I think it's between him and Jalen. And again, I'm not going to argue or fight with anybody that says, Jalen won. I'm okay with that. I am, because of what Jalen did last year. He deserves that ranking. But I'm still looking Dak. Dak's my QB. I got my TO face going on. I'm crying right now. That's my quarterback. That's how I'm feeling right there. Dak's in my heart. He's my teammate. So I'm going Dak number 1, and then go Jalen number 2, and then I think 3 through 5 is where it kind of gets crazy, and you can go any different direction. But if I'm going to just go based on experience and what have you done for me, um, crazy to think about it, but I'm probably going to go Kirk Cousins number 3.
Ew.
And
Ew.
yeah, right. Kirk Cousins number 3. I probably would do Matt Stafford in there right now, but Matt Stafford's been hurt. So it's really hard to tell if Matt Stafford just kind of fell off the planet or what kind of went on with him. So I'll probably go Kirk Cousins, Matt Stafford, and then I'm going to go Jared Goff. So those are my top 5 right there. I like Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray has the potential there, but there's some I don't know, you could say demons that he's fighting or battles that's going on within his life or injuries. I'm not too sure.
He's
And
definitely
then,
fighting some battles.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, something's going on with him, but we've seen him at his peak and he's incredible. Again, we're not counting Aaron Rodgers right here because we're just expecting Aaron Rodgers to get over to the Jets world. So yeah, I'd probably go there. I mean, I wouldn't mind throwing Derek Carr in there somewhere, but I mean, after Derek Carr had all that talent last year, I'm probably not going to put him in my top 5. So I'd say right now those are probably my top 5 guys.
Yeah, I'm with you on Dak and Jalen 1-2. Whatever, however you want to rank them, I'm fine with. If I'm of the opinion that if you gave Dak the talent that Jalen had, his stats would be a lot better than they were last year. At least the interceptions would be lower, right? You can't look past the amount of talent, but you also can't look past that Jalen succeeded with that talent. So 1-2, whatever you want to rank them. I know Gio, you're in the chat. You're gonna go ahead and give Jalen the number 1 nod, and I'm okay with that because Roll Tide. Dak second. Number 3, I'm probably gonna go Jared Goff. He played well last year. He played well. They designed a system that he could succeed in, and he played well. I'm gonna say Derek Carr is 4th, and maybe that's on career accomplishments because you're right. He had a down year last year, and he had talent. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong on that, and if we re-rank these mid-season, maybe he drops off the list. So we're Jared Goff. We're Derek Carr. Number 5, I'm gonna go with Geno Smith. Just by what he did last year, if he can keep going, I am not a Kirk Cousins guy, so I can't put Kirk Cousins up there. Matt Stafford just been hurt too much. Then you're looking at Daniel Jones, Justin Fields, those kind of guys, and they're definitely not coming up there. So I would give Kirk Cousins probably number 6 if I had to. But the 1-2
I forgot about
really
Geno.
there's a big drop off after 1 and 2. I think. What do you think, Jazz? You got a top 5?
To be honest, I don't. But pretty much for the same reasons that y'all listed. It's like, so one, it's hard to compare everybody after Dak and Jalen. And also, I don't pay as much attention to those quarterbacks. So it's like anything I say is pretty much going off reputation. So yeah, I would go Dak 1, Jalen 2. I don't know. It's almost like you can pick anybody after that as long as you have a reason. Like I can be like,
who you picking, Jazz? Like who you want as your quarterback? Like who you picking as your quarterback for your franchise if it ain't Jalen or Dak in the NFC?
I'm gonna go Geno Smith. I don't think that's a popular opinion, but I think he surprised a lot of people with what he was able to do, and I respect dudes who have that kind of work ethic to be like, you know what, I'm gonna be patient, I'm gonna bide my time, but when it is my time, I'm gonna come in and kill it, So I do want to see more from him as far as like whether or not he remains in that position. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for what he did. Couldn't have put Derek Carr number 4, but I mean,
that was a very unhappy number 4.
No, like I grew up a Saints fan. I grew up in Louisiana, so I want him to do well.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say he's 4th on the list and hope that he lives up to that. And then we'll go Jared Goff. Just because like the Lions right now, it's like they're an underdog, but they're not. They're an underdog off a reputation, but it's like they shocked a lot of people this past season too. And I feel like anytime a team does something like that, it says something about the leadership. And, whether or not people want to admit it, like quarterbacks are very much involved in the leadership of their team. So we'll go with
Great
that.
take. Great take. Jess, so tell us a little bit about yourself. And I've been excited to say this all night about the Bitches Love Sports podcast. So tell us what you do. Tell us about yourself. Let's hear all about it.
Sure. So I am one of the hosts of Bitches Love Sports, and I'm also a contributor for Inside the Star, which is a Cowboys focused blog. So Bitches Love Sports actually came about in summer of 2021. It was actually the idea of a friend of mine because he thought it was hilarious that I would like start talking to him about sports and then just start completely objectifying the players. um and that's that's something that happens on my Twitter a lot. Like, I like to watch the games, I like to talk about the stats, but I'm also 100% a fangirl too. And so he would just like start laughing at me and then just be like, one day he was like, yeah, you should make this a podcast. And so I hit up one of my other friends who is also very much into sports, but she's from Europe, so sports in a different way. But I was just like, yeah, do you want to do this with me? And then we hit up another friend. So initially there were three of us, eventually went down to two. But yeah, basically our brand is essentially about the sports that we like, the athletes that we like, and just trying to encourage other women to feel more comfortable in the sports world. Because once we started our Facebook group, one thing that we realized was there was like this similarity between the stories, where there was these a lot of women who wanted to be sports fans, but they just felt uncomfortable in a lot of sports centric spaces. Whether it was because they just were working moms and didn't have enough time to get into the stats and everything like everybody else, and so sometimes they like felt stupid, or a lot of times it was that, like, they were fangirls too. And one thing that you notice as a fangirl really quickly is that it doesn't matter how good your take is. As soon as you say somebody's hot, nobody is listening to you anymore. It instantly becomes like, oh, you're defending that player because you think he's hot. And so it's like we just kind of needed a space to where we could like have these conversations together and not judge each other for that. um
Wait, hold
and
on.
so then
Can we have an example, Jazz? Like, I want to know, like, what are one of these players you've objectified out there? Like, this is
Oh,
awesome.
there are tons of them. Like on one of our earlier episodes, we literally had a whole episode that was debating, because like, but basically before we started paying attention to the Cowboys, for us, OBJ was like the hottest wide receiver ever, right? And so then we had this whole conversation debating if CeeDee Lamb was hotter than OBJ, and we ran a poll with our listeners, and they overwhelmingly voted CeeDee Lamb, right? So
Yeah.
so those are some of the conversations that we would have. And then of course, whenever they started talking about OBJ possibly joining the Cowboys, it was a different type of conversation, just about like how he would
Best
fit in
looking
with the
receiver
offense.
group in the
And
league.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, CeeDee Lamb gets objectified a lot. um Dak is another one. We love Dak. On the NBA side, Giannis, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, we love those guys. So yeah,
You got your list, don't you?
I was hoping she did when I asked the question. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, CeeDee Lamb definitely has my heart, 100%. Um,
Hey, you know what Tyreek Hill said, right? I don't know if
um,
you've seen that video
was he the one who
while he
said
was
that like
streaming.
CD was like the smoothest receiver that he
Yeah,
seen? Yeah, yeah, agreed,
yeah,
agreed.
agree. Yeah,
um,
yeah.
But yeah, so neither one of us followed the Cowboys at the time the podcast started. I was a Saints fan, and she had never seen American football before I got her on the podcast. She was like really big into soccer, and then she started watching basketball. So School of Hard Knocks comes on HBO, and we're like, Dallas is right up the street because we live in Austin. We're like, we should watch this. And so, like, I had kind of started following Dak and Zeke for a little while years ago, whenever they were like really big in the news, because it was like Dak had taken over for Romo, and that was a big deal. And then, Zeke and the whole feed me thing and the crop tops, everybody loves Zeke. And so they were a big deal for a while. So it's like, I knew
Not
of them.
everybody loves Zeke. Not everybody loves Zeke, Jack.
Good point.
I'm
Good
just telling you.
point. Which is unfortunate.
Especially on this
I
show.
love this guy.
Especially on this show. Not everybody loves Zeke like
I
we
love
love Zeke. I'm
Zeke.
just
Get
telling you right
out
now.
of here.
Oh,
Get out
I
of
don't
here.
want
I
to
love
go.
Zeke. So Chat wants to know your opinion on. I think Chat's just been waiting on this topic to come up. They want to know your opinion on Jalen Hurts from an male good lookingness.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely one of the tops on the list. How like I don't know. I don't really have a ranking of all the NFL players right now. I guess I should. I should have that on deck. But yeah, like so if I were to put CD Lamb one, I don't know. Hertz might actually be like if we're going by stars, Hertz might actually be a two. Now there are a couple of other guys on the Cowboys who I may or may not put above him, like Simi Fehoko, really good looking guy.
With the
So
hair. He's got the hair.
yeah, he's got the hair, he's got a great voice, he's got a great build. Like that's a good looking man. Um,
See, you got that one
but
over me.
yeah,
I have no idea what his voice sounds like at all.
no,
he
he
can
doesn't sing a
sing.
lot, but it's just I don't even remember how I found it, but I found this video where he was doing this radio interview and he's saying, but yeah, he sings really well. Um, I feel like Hertz could easily be top five, regardless of like what our qualifications are for ranking, if not top three. Like, yeah, he's a cutie. And
Well, as
he has a really
my
nice
wife
he has
is
a
a
really nice
huge
speaking voice too.
yeah. My wife is a huge sports fan, so it's awesome. I'm gonna let her know as soon as we're done here about your podcast and objectifying men. She'll enjoy.
Awesome. Spread the
She'll get a
word.
kick out of that. Rev, I know something you wanted to talk about was the Dak interceptions and Mike Martz talking about him a little bit out there, man. If you want to get into that.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I do. I do. I don't know about it. Hurts. I guess it was all 33, and he basically just broke down every single interception that Dak had this past season. Have you seen that? Have you seen the video?
I have, yeah.
I
And I bring it up
haven't.
because it's something
You
we've
seen it?
talked about on here a few times, Rev.
Who put it out?
Okay. So it's on Discord. So I'll encourage you to check it out maybe after the show or whatever.
Okay.
But Mike Martz was the offensive coordinator for the Rams. I don't know if you recall this, but offensive coordinator for the Rams for I don't know how many years. They called him the mad scientist because he's the one that created the greatest show on turf back when the Rams were super good, winning Super Bowls and stuff like that. So Mike Martz he's a big fan of Dak, and so he took all of the interceptions and broke them down. I want to say Dak threw what 17 picks, Coach? Is that right? 17
I tried to forget,
this
man.
past season.
Too many. It was a lot, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
too many. So but everything. If you're a Cowboy fan, all you've been hearing about is Dak's a interception machine, and that just doesn't line up with Dak's career because in his past I want to say he's ninth overall career-wise, touchdown interception ratio, which is Hall of Fame stuff. But either way, Dak has kind of gotten this label this year because of interceptions, big time. And so Mike Martz got the video, broke it down, and by the time you get to the end of the video, what you realize is Mike Martz is basically showing you play by play that I would say about 5 to 6 of the picks are really back. Compared to 17, like there's only like 5 of them that really Dak was just shouldn't have made that throw or made a horrible pass or whatever that looked like. The rest of them had everything to do with receivers dropping balls, running the wrong routes, not coming back to the ball, not cutting across the face of the defender. And so it was really good stuff. Now, granted, you talk to a hater on Twitter or whatever social media, they're just going to hate on Dak for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? But context wise, I mean, we all know the truth. Like Dak is a good quarterback. He is a top 10 quarterback, no matter how you feel. And one thing, I don't know if you heard this one, Coach, but they actually asked Mike Martz between Jalen and Dak Prescott, who would you choose as your quarterback for the next 3 years? And of course, Mike Martz chose Dak over Jalen Hurts, which is actually very surprising. Very surprising. So, yeah, what were your thoughts on all that, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of, and I know we lost Jazz here for a minute. I think she was talking, but we've kind of talked about that on the show that like our receiver play, like a lot of the interceptions he threw were on the receiver more than anything else. Now, as Chad has pointed out, that Josh Sweat interception touchdown return was maybe his low
Yeah.
moment of the season. But he made some bad choices, and every quarterback does. But the interception numbers being that high speak to our receiver play, I think, more. And several of them were CD. As much as I'd like to blame it on Gallup or not signing another one, a lot of them were CD. I forget how many he talked about in there, but CD either not making a play on the ball or giving up on a route or things like that. That the effort plays, I felt like CD was the cause of several of them, which was early in the season too. He seemed to pick it up in the second half.
Right. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the picks this year, Jazz?
I haven't seen the video that you're referring to, but I feel like based on what you described, what he said is in alignment with what I would hear in post game a lot of situations, because there were a lot of games that I would talk to other fans, like actual fans, who were like watching film, breaking down film, really paying attention, and who were like, yeah, this wasn't really on Dak, this was on the receiver, or this was just a bad situation for him to be in. Or I even think I heard something recently where somebody was talking about, and it might have been somebody else talking about this video as well, but they were talking about how a lot of times receivers were running stop routes where they'd kind of get to the end of the route and they would just be like, basically like sitting ducks. And it was like really easy for corners and defenders to just like jump the route, which was something that like I had kind of noticed at one point, like late in the season. I remember telling somebody, I was just like, it looks like our receivers, they're like getting to a spot and then they just stand there like they don't know what's going on. Which I guess which sounds a lot like what this person was trying to describe with the stop routes, but I'm still getting used to like reading offenses in that way. But I was just like, why do they keep doing that? Like, why do they keep getting to a spot and they just stand there? Like, I'm like, do something, So yeah, like this season, as far as interceptions go, was definitely an outlier for Dak Prescott. So it makes sense that there were other issues at play that could lead to that. And especially if you add in the fact that like Amari Cooper was removed from the situation, and people say things like, well, they asked CD if he was ready to be number one, and he said he was. But whether or not you're ready to be a number one receiver in the NFL, I feel like is an unknown, right? You don't really know until like the season starts and you're in that position. And
Is
I
any
think
receiver
a lot
ever going to
about
say no to that? Like, if they came to me sitting here in my office and were like, "You ready to be the number one wide receiver for the Cowboys?" Like, I'm going to be like, "Hell yeah."
right, exactly. And I think back to an interview I saw of him last summer where somebody asked him specifically, "Are you prepared to handle the added attention that you're going to be getting once you're number one?" And he literally said something like, "Oh, I don't think I'll get that much more attention." And I remember watching that like, "Excuse me, what?" So it's like from watching that interview, he didn't even really understand what it would mean to be number one receiver. And then like a couple of weeks into the season, it actually might have been after week 1, they did a locker room interview with him, where they were like, how did you feel about all the attention that you had? How do you feel being number one? And he was like, oh, I see what people mean now when they talk about, how much attention's going to be on me. So it's like, he didn't even really, people who say that like he had some catching up to do when the season started, absolutely correct. You can see it in his play. You can hear it in his responses, so that's
Great
legit.
Point, yeah.
And then you add to that just like, we've heard Mike McCarthy say things like, I don't like option routes. So we know there was a little bit of a disconnect between Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore, right? A lot of people have criticized Kellen Moore regardless of what Mike McCarthy had to say. And then you add to the fact that Ezekiel Elliott was still struggling through injuries. The loss of Terrence Steele impacted the run game, which is going to impact the rest of the offense. The constant musical chairs with the O-line. Like, yeah, there's a lot of things that you could point to, even without looking at the film, to just be like, yeah, he had a hard year. Oh, the injury. Like, he hurt his freaking thumb. Like, that's kind of a big deal, And I would challenge anybody who says it's not to try to write or drive or throw a ball themselves without using their thumb, and just see how they feel about it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
You actually bring up a great point.
Two
there
things.
Go ahead, Rev.
Yeah, two things. I just want to tail off of what Jazz is saying. One, the whole stop routes. you know, football 101. And I don't know if you've ever coached before, but me and Coach, coach football and things like that. Football 101, Pop Warner, whether I'm teaching my 6-year-old this or a professional football players, you always come back to the ball. Like always. Like there's no standing there waiting for the ball to get there. And so one of the things that I recognized, and maybe not so much on CeeDee Lamb struggled maybe with the routes and kind of coming across the face a little bit. But Michael Gallup struggled with coming back to the ball multiple times this past season. And what I thought about, I was like, well, maybe his knee is not fully healthy yet, to where he fully trusted his knee to break down and fire back. And so I think there was a little bit of that going on. The second thing, I love what you said about the disconnect with Mike McCarthy and Kellen Hurts. The disconnect is there was a lot of times that Mike Martz actually said, I don't know why the offense coordinator is calling this play. It was kind of like he was dissing him in that moment, saying that play doesn't relate to me. And he was dogging the idea that the receivers were paying attention to the details of their mistakes, and they were making the same mistakes over and over again. So I just wanted to add that to that, Coach, that, those are all good points. And, we see there, and even Kellen Moore isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to piggyback on what you said about Michael Gallup. So I'm a personal trainer, and I do coach, not football. I coach a roller derby team, but I have had to
Even
deal with a
better.
lot of people who've had injuries that they've had to heal from, even especially knee injuries. It happens a lot in our sport. And so one of the interesting things about that whole conversation was that, like, he had surgery, had the ACL issue, had surgery, and then they were like, "Oh, he's ready to come back to the field," right? Um and so if you were to look up like how long it takes to recover from an ACL injury or surgery, there are sources that might say like, "Oh, 4 to 6 months," right? But that's like the time period to like be functional again. If you actually look into studies of how long it takes to return to pre-injury athletic abilities, especially for elite athletes, it's actually closer to 9 to 12 months. And from working with athletes who actually have had knee surgery and traumatic knee injuries, I would say that's pretty accurate, because I've worked with people who, like, they're ready to get back on the track, they put their skates on, they can skate, yada yada, but then whenever it comes to um like agility, quick movements, having to really like load one leg on and hop onto the other, that is a struggle for them for a while. And there's a lot of reasons for that, right? Sometimes when you go through that surgery, there's damage to proprioceptors. Sometimes there's scar tissue, which can affect the way your nerves respond, right? So there's a lot of reasons for that, but like it does take time for these athletes to get back to their pre-injury form. So I wouldn't be surprised if Gallup struggled all season. And as we know, football players aren't gonna like announce every single discomfort or injury that they experience. They're just gonna be like, "Oh well, I'm trying to come back." Like they never go to the press and be like, "Okay, well, yeah, I didn't come back to the ball because my knee's hurting." Like that's not gonna happen.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Great point with Michael Gallup, and I hope that I hope that you're right for the Cowboys' sake, that he comes back next year. Now, after that 9 to 12 months that you talked about, and is the guy that he was the season before, right? But this is a great way to jump into the draft and talking about, if we're sitting there at 26 and one of the top wide receivers are on the board, do we count on Michael Gallup's knee to be better, or do we jump in and do we snag one of those receivers? Uh, so you don't have to answer that question specifically, Jazz, but I'm sure you followed the draft a little bit. I know you said earlier that you're not as into it as a lot of people. Like me and Rev, we're huge draft dorks, so like we're all in it. And just talk about the Cowboys draft some, and where you think we should go, positions, players, whatever you think.
So I personally want us, like, I feel like the next moves that we make need to be on the O line. We need more depth. We need more dependable guys, because it's like I'm trying to think. So we've got CD, we've got Brandon Cooks, we've got Michael Gallup, which I would anticipate that he's going to be the same or better. And then we've got guys waiting in the wings. Even if we did get like another star receiver or even more depth at the position, at the end of the day, we've got to make sure that Dak gets that ball off, you know? And then if they end up running the West Coast offense, like a lot of people predict, then we're talking about precision when it comes to timing. And that's not going to happen if Dak's O linemen are being pushed into him, or if he doesn't feel comfortable in the pocket because it's collapsing, or he can't predict who's going to be in what position, or whether or not they'll be able to, keep him clean, So, I know people are like, yeah, we're running West Coast. We need receivers who can, run horizontal routes. We need receivers who can be physical, yada, 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 whatever. At the end of the day, to me, it doesn't matter if we're not 100% sure that Dak is comfortable and that he has the people in front of him who can make sure that he either gets the ball to the right person, or that whoever gets that handoff has room to run where they're supposed to run.
Rev was so excited when you said that. I don't know if you saw his video on on here about how excited he was. Rev, go ahead, talk about your O lineman. Boring.
I mean, out of all off seasons that we've pretty much had, here's an off season we actually have done something. Since that signing of Brandon Carr, back in I don't even know when, but it's like we haven't done anything in the off season, and especially last year. Cowboy fans are just frustrated with this idea of we just sit on our hands. Yeah, we do draft well. That is one thing that we always say this, Jazz, and Will we trust, because we believe that Will McClay, he's that guy that kind of, he's always putting the right pieces in place for us to draft well. But as far as free agents go and things like that, it looks like, and don't get me wrong, I mean, we've signed some of our own guys. We just gave away 2 5th-round picks as if we gave away a 2nd and a 1st-round pick. You know what I'm saying? It's a big deal for Cowboy land. And so, got some good players right here. Does it look like we're going all in? I don't know about you, Coach, but I kind of feel like, Stephen Jones, doing a little bit of something up there.
He's
it looks like this is an all-in type of.
He's dipping his toe in the all-in pool right now. He's just dipping his toe.
Yeah, dipping his toe, but I mean, we'll take it, right? We'll take the toe. And so I'm just looking at the season and this off season, just kind of like, what are some holes that we still have? Is Tony Pollard back full health? Will he be able to come back from that break and be ready to go? Ronald Jones, I mean, I don't think he is, although he's only 27, which I didn't know that. Actually, still pretty young in the football world in the sense of maybe hitting his prime just right. But he hasn't done too much in the league, so hard to put your bet in there. But where's one spot that we could definitely say that there's a hole, and I would say it's left guard. We've heard a little bit about moving Terrence Steele to left guard, which I think that's absolutely insanity. I pretty much have set in stone that Tyron Smith is our new swing tackle. He played at left tackle for all these years. He is a future Hall of Famer right now as we speak. He could retire right now tomorrow and be good to go for the Hall of Fame. Maybe not a first ballot guy, but he'd eventually get in there, I believe. And so, his time is coming to an end. This idea of only playing 10 games a year or 7 games a year, we can't run anymore. So Terrence Steele, he is our right tackle. I think Tyler Smith is our future left tackle. Quit putting him inside. Quit putting him at left guard. Quit all that silliness. Stick the Joker out there and let's ride. Now, the only thing that we could do that I'm thinking that maybe changes it up is we do draft a left tackle in the draft, but I don't want to draft a left tackle at 26. They're all gone. So, and I don't want to definitely draft a right tackle and stick them at left tackle. Stick Tyler Smith out there. Let's get one of these left guards at that positional rank where, we can get the dude from TCU or Florida. I don't even care, but yeah, just put one of them big boys in there and let's rock and roll this season. Now, I did hear, and I can't remember his name right now. So, but the dude from Northwestern, I don't know if you can look him up real quick, but he played tackle in college, and what they're saying is his better positional value is actually at guard, and he would probably be a future Hall of Famer at guard if you bumped him inside. So, is there a chance for him to slide all the way back? I doubt it.
Oh, Skronsky?
Skoronsky,
But
yeah.
maybe. Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to go top 10, top 15 at least. But
Frazier has him
if people
going
are looking at
10
him as a guard,
to the
yeah,
Eagles.
yeah,
Yeah.
which maybe could happen.
I don't know if I'm thinking of the right person, but I want to say that with Skoronsky, the reason why they were saying that he'd be better at guard was because of something like arm length or something. It was something like that. It was like one of those
Mm,
things that's like
Yep.
relatively like
Short,
minor.
his arms are too
But
short to play tackle. That's the knock on
yeah,
him.
yeah, which is I don't know. I guess I'll trust the experts to that, but at the same time, you have experts saying things like about Osiris Torrance, right? Oh, he's not great at pass blocking, and it's like, okay, but he kept his quarterback clean throughout his college career. So he got the job done, right? So why do y'all think he's not great? Because of his technique? Okay, but like I don't know. I guess I'm one of those people who's like, okay, critique the technique, we can work on that, but if he's getting the job done, he's getting the job done. But
right.
Torrance and Avila, those are two names that I've heard. And at this point, I'm okay with either one of them, but I'm with you. I do think that we do need to find somebody for that left guard spot. Um, I don't know. I honestly like. I think had Jerry Jones not made that comment about Terrence Steele being a swing tackle, nobody would be considering that because I haven't heard anybody else in the building or on the staff even suggest that that's a thing. But Jerry Jones said it one day, and now everybody's like, "Oh, this might be a situation." I'm like, it doesn't even make sense. Like we
I
all
hope
saw
he
what
was just
happened
being
when
Right.
he didn't
respectful
have
to
him at
Tyron
right
Smith.
tackle. So I just don't see how anybody could intelligently make that decision. But I think it's interesting that people think that like O-line discussions are so boring and that like that's not the spot to draft for.
Oh,
But
you
it's
got
like
me
I
right
know,
not
in the
right,
not not
Jazz?
to
feels.
be sorry.
I know,
I don't
Jazz.
think,
I
but
mean, it's exciting. It's exciting to talk about O-line, right?
the thing that's
Uh,
funny about it to me is it's like O-line is like one of those things that when they're doing their job, people forget they exist, right? But then whenever things start to go haywire, all of a sudden everybody's like, "What's going on?" And so like when our run
Yeah,
game started to go to shit, everybody's like, "What happened to our run game?" And it's like, well, if you kind of like look at when Terrence Steele was no longer at right tackle, you can kind of see what
that's
happened
right.
to our run game, you know.
That's
And
right.
and same thing, like there was that one game, I can't remember which game it was, but I remember they had to take out Josh Ball and then they put in Jason Peters, and then all of a sudden Dak made this miraculous drive down the field. And I'm like, that wasn't a coincidence. Like O-line matters, y'all.
Jazz, I'll tell you a
Having
Yeah,
secret here.
yeah.
The
team chemistry there is important.
I'll tell you a secret. The last position when I coached football, and the favorite by far position, and I spent more years there than anywhere else, as I coached O-line, and absolutely love it. So I say it's boring to talk about, but I'll weigh in on the Cowboys here, and you guys can listen. You can disagree. You'll be wrong, but how we need to do this, and any talk about moving Tyler Smith from left tackle is absolutely stupid to me. Like, I don't understand where it comes from. You drafted this guy that nobody believed in. He was going to get penalties. You threw him at left tackle like the day before the season started. He went out there, played fantastic for that. Had a few issues here and there, but very little, less than most of the rookie tackles had. And you threw him out there the day before the season started. You just struck gold. You got lucky. You got a top 5 type tackle.
Struggle.
Wherever we got, whatever pick we took him at, you leave him there. You don't mess with it again. You thank Will McClay for drafting him because you just got your left tackle for the next decade. You don't touch him. This moving to left guard stuff is stupid. And if it takes us drafting a left guard with that 26th pick, fine. Draft Osiris or Avila or Skoronsky if he were to happen to fall that far, fine. I am okay with that. 100% on board with that. I like Terrence Steele at right tackle. I think you put those two together and you've got your bookend tackles for the next decade. Tyron Smith, I love Tyron Smith. I love him more than Zeke Rev. I know you're a Zeke guy, but Tyron Smith put in the years. He's a Hall of Famer at left tackle, like you said. I think he's first ballot Hall of Fame. We'll see if that happens. having him as a swing tackle that can play both left and right, we have the best swing tackle in the league if he stays healthy.
Yes.
We have the 3 best tackle combination maybe the league's ever seen. I don't know. Maybe I'm exaggerating because I'm a Cowboys fan, but like it's hard to imagine that a Hall of Fame guy that still is playing at a high level is going to be our swing tackle. I know the injuries, that's why he's going to be a swing tackle, but his play is still at a very high level. Our center's set. Can we improve at center? Absolutely. Is he good enough? Yeah. Best right guard in the league, so that leaves left guard, like you said. If we, I forget the name of the guy from the Jets we signed. If he happens to go there, it's a need. I don't know if it's a huge need. When we're talking about holes, Rev, just to shift away from this boring O-line talk after I just got emotional about it, I'd say interior D-line. I'd say that's a pretty big hole for us. We have a team full of 3 techs. We don't have a nose tackle. Is nose tackle is that position worth enough to draft in the first round? Probably not. So if you were to go between the two, I would take a guard over that. I'm happy that we're off taking a running back. Like a lot of the mock drafts, a lot of the talking heads, like we are right now, are off taking a running back in the first round. Everybody's kind of on board with the mid-round guys, the Izzy from Pitt, Charbonnet, or however you say his name, from UCLA. Those guys in the later rounds, I like those picks. If Gibbs were to be there with our second round pick, I would eat Gibbs up with that second round pick. As far as wide receivers, and this
would you take him first?
Gibbs, no, I'm not taking any. And he went to Alabama, so you know that I'd absolutely be biased here and take Gibbs first if I had any want of a running back in the first round.
Gibbs in the first round, coach. No running back in the first round.
None.
Imagine that.
0. No. I know that's a new thing for this podcast for me to preach not taking a running back in the
What
first
about
round.
you, Jazz? You taking a running back in the first round, Jazz?
I mean, the only one that I'd be comfortable with taking in the first round would be Bijan, and I just don't see that happening. Now, have crazier things happened? Well, crazy things have happened. I don't know of anything quite as crazy as Bijan somehow falling to 26. But yeah, if that somehow ended up being the case, I'd be okay with that. But otherwise, in the first round, I wouldn't. But at the same time, with it being that we don't really know what Pollard's going to be like coming back, right? Like, I heard he gained weight, and maybe that's good weight. Like, he's going to be, like, stronger and more durable. Hopefully that's not, I haven't been doing too much weight. So we'll see.
I mean, my dude's got a broken leg. Like, I mean, he did break his leg.
Yeah.
And eating potato chips, huh?
Yeah, and then we don't really know what to expect from Davis, right? So I can see how some people would think that we need a little bit more depth there, a little bit more reassurance. So yeah, I'm not totally mad at the idea of it, but I just think that there are, more important positions. Like I'd even feel better about a linebacker in the first round than a running back, honestly.
No.
So it's like,
ooh.
Oh, no, not first round. Hold on.
Ooh.
No, we do need a
I'm
linebacker,
depressed.
but you're right, not in the first round. So yeah, for me, first round,
I'm depressed.
definitely O-line. If not that, then running back, and if not that, then receiver. But yeah, at some point, yeah, linebacker.
Are there any receiver names you like, Jazz?
There's a few. I think JSN is the one that I hear about most often these days. And so, like, you can't deny the greatness of that. Zay Flowers is really interesting to me. And I'm not saying necessarily that I like him, especially for the Cowboys, but he's just like, he's really fun to watch. And this phenomenon of smaller receivers is really interesting to me, especially as a trainer. Just seeing how they're developing athletically and the skills and abilities that they're using to get past some of these bigger corners. Because on paper, you would think that, naturally these smaller receivers would struggle. But it's actually turning out to be the situation where a lot of them are able to use their speed and agility and quickness to get open, get yards, and eventually they do get caught, they do get tackled, right? But it's just like, a lot of them are getting enough yards or even yards after the catch to where they're still making a big impact on the teams they're on. So that's been really interesting to watch. And Zay, like, that dude is he's so quick. He's so quick. So yeah, but between him and JSN, I would say I like JSN better. But it's another one of those situations where I feel like anybody who really starts to get people's attention, as soon as you're like, yeah, I like that person, it's like, oh, but they probably won't be available at 26. There's just so much that could happen before the Cowboys pick that it's really hard to predict um who would be available and like who should be the focus, you know?
Let's hurt Rev's feelings here real quick, Jazz, and let's what if Michael Mayer or your boy from Georgia are there, tight ends at 26? Well, what are your feelings
And
on
at
taking a tight
26.
end in the first round?
Um my first mind says no, right? Because I'm just like, yeah, we're good at tight end. But once again, West Coast offense. It's like, could you use another one? Especially since we just lost one. Yeah, I guess that's another one I really wouldn't be too mad at. I might even prefer. I feel like I'm gonna regret saying this, but I might even prefer taking a tight end over a running back. Like before we take a running back, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
Only
Rev's
because
Rev's
of
all
how
in
I
his feelings now.
anticipate they'll be used, you know? Only because of how I anticipate they'll be used, but we don't really know what our offense is going to look like for real either. So yeah, there's a lot of questions.
Rev, Darnell Washington, Michael Mayer, man. He can't even get the words
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, I'm not feeling it. Couple reasons why though. Couple reasons why. You know, I want to know what we got with Ferguson and Hendershot. You know what I'm saying? Are they the future? Um, we saw a little bit of flashes, but I kind of want to see what they. Well, Dalton Schultz was a product of Dak Prescott. That's what we all have seen. They let him go. They let him walk. The league agreed. Like a chance to sign 3-year, $36 million, whatever last year. Shut it down. He was betting on himself. He bet wrong. Yeah, granted, he still made good money. He's still gonna put 20 mil in his pocket, but could have been 36. And so, I think the Cowboys let him go in the sense that they feel good about their two tight ends. At the same time, if you bring this other guy in, that means that they think that this guy, this tight end, whoever it is, would be better than both these guys. And I've been hearing just through grapevine, it's not Ferguson that the Cowboys like, it's actually Hendershot. They feel like Hendershot might be the guy, which I was like pretty surprised to hear that. But when you look at the comps and you look at the whatever the grade is for a tight end, Ferguson and Hendershot are actually pretty far down the list. And these guys coming in the draft are actually much higher as far as their grading as tight ends are going. Their measurables, the one as far as combine stuff, and so I don't know. I'm trying to hope for the best, expect the worst kind of thing. So I won't be thrilled that we pick a tight end. Each one of these tight ends speaks at me a little bit. Michael Mayer is that low ceiling type of tight end that is not very fast. Athleticism is just not real great, but he's about as consistent as you can get. His statistics within college is top.
He reminds
so
me.
You can't really hate on that.
Witten.
Yeah, it looks. And if he's a Jason Witten, hey, I'm in. The Darnell Washington, he's the guy that not much product in college, but his measurables, he's a freak. How big he is, he's fast, he can catch, all these different things. He's just a freakish athlete, if you want to say that. And so you would kind of be excited about him in the sense that because he can block well. I like the idea of maybe bringing him in because he could help the blocking game, and he could start immediately as far as being out there to block. Because most of these tight ends that come in, they don't even know how to block. That's their struggle. It's not catching. It's not running routes. It's not your little stop route. What do you call that again, Coach? The tight end route that like the Cowboys always run their 6-yard route to their tight ends. They've been running it for, I don't know, 50 years or whatever. So
Jason Garrett.
Yeah, Jason Garrett. So here, just the thought of Darnell, I would be excited about the running game there and his ability to maybe develop into something special. But then you got the Dalton Kincaid, and
He's an athlete,
he's
man.
been cleared of the back issues but he's athletic, man. And one thing I know, we keep talking about all these wide receivers in the draft and who would you take. I agree with you. I like the boy from Ohio State. I really think he's going to be a top 10 pick. I really do. I think he's that good of a slot receiver. But Zay is special. I like Josh Downs. He looks like he can be dynamic. The guy that I think is going to be available for us as far as wide receiver, I think Quentin Johnson is going to be available. I think he's dropping down the list. Not a fan of him. He is talented, and we could use him as an X. But I think the Cowboys are looking at Dalton Kincaid, and I'm just throwing from rumors out there. They're looking at Dalton Kincaid and saying he is the best receiver in the first round.
So
as a tight end.
Just to give you, I got Kuiper's mock draft pulled up here just to have something up here that gives some kind of reference for where we think these guys are going to go. JSN at 12. Your boy Kincaid at 15 to the Packers. Just to Quentin Johnson at, I saw him just a second ago, like 34. Yeah, 34 to the Cardinals. Zay Flowers. Yeah. I saw him just a second ago. 17 to Pittsburgh. So of everybody you just mentioned, they're all off the board. He has us taking Michael Mayer, and Darnell Washington goes late 30s, I think it was.
Yeah.
So just a second ago, 40. He goes at 40.
That's interesting. I can actually see us going with Washington because of exactly what Coach just said. And that was something that I had actually mentioned way back when it was first announced that Zeke was gonna be leaving. I was just like, well, one of the things that he did really well was pass blocking. So is somebody gonna take up that mantle? And I think that's one of those things that people don't think about a lot. Doesn't show up on the stat sheet. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys did look for somebody who could kind of play that role. So yeah, Mayer looks good. He really does look good on paper, but that does seem to be one of the biggest differences between him and Washington is just that ability to block. So I guess it depends on how much you value that. Mayer's also got a really interesting look, those old school photos of the clean cut football players. That's what he looks like. He's just out of a yearbook from decades ago. So wild.
He's 6'4", 249.
Yeah. How big is he?
6'4", 249.
Yeah, he's not real big. He's just not real big. I mean, yeah, 6'4". Yeah, that's not real big. But I mean, he's just. Yeah, I mean, I think Henderson's bigger than that. I want to say Jake is 6'4". Yeah, something like that. But he's just.
That's wild.
Yeah, 6'7". Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not. Tight end is probably the most boring. Give me the O-line, coach. Right? Give me the O-line. Tight end's boring.
Jazz, anything else you want to talk about the draft? I do want to talk about some NBA. We're a little over an hour now, so I want to get in that before we got to go. But anything else about the draft that we didn't mention that you want to talk about?
Nope.
All right, so I am an Orlando Magic fan, Jazz. For everything that's worth. People usually say I'm sorry when I say that, but we had a couple good years in my life. A couple of them, two. We had good years. They're done, and
so
usually
you traded them away.
Yeah, usually I jump on the Mavericks bandwagon afterwards, and I don't get that this year either. So I'm completely out there looking for a team to root on in the playoffs. Give me some ideas, Jazz.
A lot of people are expecting big things from the Celtics, so you can't go wrong there. Even if they don't make it all the way, they're gonna do some damage. The Suns, as long as Kevin Durant stays healthy, for some people, they're favorites to win it all. And I'll be honest, they do look completely different with Kevin Durant. And I think it's because, in my opinion, Kevin Durant and Chris Paul kind of complement each other. Chris Paul is like the quintessential point guard, right? Such a great team leader. But as far as like his impact on the court, as of late, it had been kind of muted a little bit, right? Whereas
Mhm.
Kevin Durant, always impactful on the court, great scorer, great player. But let's be real, Kevin Durant is not exactly a leader. And I think one of the issues with Durant is that he kept being put in positions where people not only wanted him to be the star player and the lead scorer, but they wanted him to lead. They wanted him to lead in the locker room. They wanted him to set the tone for team culture, and that's just not who he is, you know? And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Like for some people, you're good on the court and that is what you do, you know? So I feel like now that he's with the Suns and he's not expected to do that, right? That's Chris Paul's job. They respect him as such. All he has to do is what he's best at, and he goes on the court and he does that.
Put the
And
ball
I
in the
feel
hoop.
like that has been like a really great fit for the Suns. Um, and then you have who else? Obviously the Bucks. I think the only reason the Bucks don't get talked about more is because people are so used to Giannis being great. It's just kind of like, okay, what else is there to say? But since they've added Jay Crowder, they've become even more physical. So that's a fun team to watch. And then the Grizzlies, I don't really know how far they're gonna go, but they're exciting. John Morant is really exciting to watch. So if you want excitement and you want a team that's always gonna give you something to talk about after every game, definitely root for the Grizzlies. But if you're, looking for a team that's like just got impeccable chemistry on and off the court right now, the Suns are the way to go. And then, just the Celtics with Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum. Just people are expecting a lot from that duo, especially with it being that it's possible that they're gonna, split up after the season. I hope they don't. But I just think with that looming over the horizon, we can expect to see some special things from them in their attempt to make this season really matter. And then the Nets. That's just an interesting story. I was never a Nets fan. I'm only paying attention to the Nets just because of their trajectory this whole season. I also like to study sports culture. So, like from a cultural perspective, that team has really been interesting to watch as far as everything that they've been through and who they are now versus who they were when they started this season. And so, to be honest, I have no idea what to expect from the Nets. So they could very well be a dark horse in the playoffs and just shock a lot of people because they're literally a different team from their coaches to their roster. So
Hmm. Well,
I don't
here's
know.
what I
If
want,
you
Who
want
are
to
they
be
Jazz. I
playing
want
right
surprised,
now?
watch the Nets for surprises.
here's Jazz. I want to root on the winning team. Like at the end of the playoffs and the finals, I want to be like, yeah, I picked them way back on April 15th that to win it all. That they're my team. So who's making the finals and who's winning it all, Jazz?
I'm gonna say Suns. Final answer.
Who are they playing
Who's-
in the finals?
who's-
I don't know. Somebody else answer that one. I'll
She's
go
like, it
second.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It
Suns.
it sounded like if I was hearing right, it sounded like you like the Celtics. That's what it sounded like.
There was
Yeah,
some Celtics love.
it's hard for me to imagine. So it's like I say the Suns, but then when I do imagine them going against the Celtics, I'm like, ugh. But yeah, I'll say Suns and Celtics, and if it's those two teams, it goes 7 games.
That'll be a good one. That'll be a
Okay.
good one for real.
Yeah.
Rev, what do you think, man? If who am I rooting on, man? First, who are you a fan of? Are you a Heat fan there in Florida?
I'm not. I'm not a Heat fan.
Oh wait, no, I know this
I'm
one. You're on
tormented.
Light the Beam.
I'm tormented just like Orlando Magic fans are, because I
Not
like a
this year.
different team that just
Not this year.
is a losing franchise, but not this year. Not this year. 16-year playoff drought, the longest playoff drought in all professional sports. And my Sacramento Kings have finally made the playoffs this year. And so I am thrilled. I'm happy. They're playing right now, so I'm anxious to get off the podcast and go watch the Little Kings. And playing the Warriors coming right off the rip. So, defending champs right here. That's a little scary. But yeah, I'm excited about these games. I can't lie to you. I am not a Laker fan, obviously, because I'm a Kings fan. And as long as the Lakers lose, I'll probably be okay. I'm pretty good with that. But who's a good team? It's hard to go against. They're healthy again. They can shoot and from anywhere as long as Wiggins is in the game. I really feel good that the Warriors are going to make a run. I like what Jazz said. I really feel like the Suns and the Warriors might meet up there in the semifinals, and so that would be awesome to kind of see a KD versus Steph. You know, to go
KD
to the
versus
finals right
Draymond.
there. That would
That's
be
where
kind
it's
of
at.
exciting. Yeah, yeah. And
Oh
so,
yeah.
as far as the East goes, I don't see how you can't pick the Bucks or the Celtics. I mean, maybe the 76ers surprise us. And this is their year. Like if they're able to get there, this is their year to do that. I think this could be something special for them, but they're coming right in to play the Bucks,
I
right
can't root
after
on a
this
team
first
from
round.
Philly, so we're
Um,
definitely not rooting on the Sixers here.
no, but I tell you, it's for me. I don't see anybody beating the Bucks. I mean, yeah, the Celtics look incredible, but I just think the Bucks are back. Like 2 years ago, they won, and last year they kind of didn't really hit well in the playoffs, and they had some injuries and things like that. So I'm looking at the Bucks saying, "Wow, they're probably the team to beat." And I'd say the Bucks win everything. I'm gonna say the Bucks to beat a little bit.
So I'll
So
put it out
it'd be
there.
hard for
We
me
did
to
that. I did that NBA
put
pick 'em
against
in
them.
the that was posted on the Discord. So if you're not on the Discord, get on the Discord, make your picks, and I'll let the cat out of the bag that I picked the Suns to play the Bucks in the final and the Suns to win. So we're there. We just
There you
split
go.
at the
There you
end.
go.
All right, Jazz.
There
Anything
we
else you
go.
want to talk about? I'm gonna pop the link to your bitches love sports in the chat again here. I popped it in there earlier when we were talking about it. I'm gonna pop it in again here. I do appreciate you coming through. It's been a good time. Anything else you want to plug? Anything else you want to talk about, Jazz?
Um, Nothing we need to talk about. This Thursday, we're gonna have some more conversations about Dak. So definitely follow us so you can see that live. I don't know if anybody follows Okoye Media, but he put out a really interesting video recently about whether or not Dak Prescott is the most hated quarterback in the NFL. And so we're gonna talk about some of the points that he made there. So that'll be fun. Um,
Are
but
we
yeah,
are we are we talking about how good he looks or him as a quarterback? I just want to
Yes.
make
The
sure
answer is
here. You
yes.
know.
no, this is all gonna be about his on-field performance and his leadership skills.
Very good.
uh,
Drop a link anytime, Jazz. You want to you want us to tune in or or you got a clip or something like that. Just throw it in Discord. We'll check it out. That's what it's there for. That's how we like to connect and kind of hang out and talk football and all sports really. So yeah, throw it in there if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'll do that. Absolutely.
Rev, anything you want to leave off on?
Go Kings, baby. Go Kings.
He's like,
Light
just
the
get me
beam,
out of
baby.
here
Light the
so I can
beam.
go watch this game.
Let's
Jazz,
go.
thanks so
Yeah,
much
man.
for coming. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it. You were the first female we've had on the show, which is awesome. We
Oh,
need
nice.
more. We need more. So send some our way if you got some, because
Will
it makes
do.
the show better.
I absolutely will. Thank you. This was a really good time. I appreciate the invite.
Awesome. See ya. Bye, everybody.
Night.